Welcome to the Reach the Stars podcast, a collection of conversations with cool people who do cool things. Brought to you by Papercraft Miracles. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories of persistence, passion, and purpose. With your host, Jonna Willoughby Lohr.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Reach the Stars podcast. I am your host, Jonna Willoughby Lohr. Today, I have a wonderful, wonderful human being as my guest. One of my oldest friends, not because she's old, but because we've been friends for a very long time. Her name is Jen Mergler, but I will always know her as Jenny Cooper. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first off, I don't speak well. Okay. So I'm just putting that out there. It's true though. Like I have this thing where like what's in my head doesn't come out of my mouth the way that I'd like it to. So, just bear with me on that one. So let's see, what about myself? I am a mama of two, homeschooling my babies. I teach yoga. I rescue cats. I eat a lot of chocolate, and occasionally I dabble in some writing. In a nutshell.
All of those things are awesome. So, I am really interested in your journey from full-time public school teacher to homeschooling mama and your decision to kind of ditch your career that has many, many student loans attached to it, and to like your reasons behind that and why you feel good about it and all those things.
All right, giddy up. Are you ready?
Yes. Okay.
So traveling back in time, I started teaching in 2005 and I taught on and off up until 2015. And I taught in charter schools, I taught in private schools, I taught in public schools, I taught in New York, I taught in Florida. So I've been in a lot of different educational settings. My last position as a teacher, I taught middle school English at a charter school downtown, which shall remain nameless. And for the first year or so, it wasn't terrible. We had a new administration and it really felt as though they wanted to enact change and they wanted to create this environment that would be really healthy and conducive to true learning. But whether you know it or not, charter schools have to be renewed. And once we hit our renewal, things started changing. And it started becoming much more focused on test scores. And the children weren't just numbers. And I'll just give you a couple of different examples of things that I was asked to do or how I was asked to think about my students that I started really feeling bad about. So we were told to give the students a number from 1 to 3 based on what we thought they would get on the test. And those students who were ones, they were basically, we had to think of them as no matter what we did, they weren't going to get a 3, which was the highest score. And so we were not to even bother with them. Just let them go, let them do their thing. Those who were 3s, don't bother with them either. They'll be fine on their own. They don't need you. So we just had to focus on these 2s that we thought we could move up to a 3 because we didn't get points for anyone under a 3. I obviously had a problem with that. I didn't like giving kids scores like that. I didn't like the idea of, I'm just going to leave this kid to do whatever the hell they're going to do. It's fucked up. And so as time progressed, it became much more obvious to me that I was not appreciated or respected as a professional. It didn't matter that I had 10 years of teaching experience. It didn't matter that I had a master's degree. I had been teaching longer than some of my administrators. That didn't matter. What mattered was getting certain test scores so that we could look good. I always likened the school to you've got a house and it needs a new roof. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to paint the front of it and make it look prettier. But fundamentally, structurally, it's still going to collapse. And that's exactly what the situation was. I started getting myself into trouble because I started saying no. And I started refusing to do things that I knew wasn't okay. And so we got to the end of the 2014-2015 school year, and I was told that my contract would not be renewed for another year. This is despite being given the highest marks possible in my teaching evaluations. You know, when the administrators come in and see you, that didn't matter. Because I was not compliant. I wouldn't just sit back and shut my mouth and do what they wanted me to do. I just couldn't do it. I did it for long enough and I couldn't do it anymore. So at the end of that year, I found out at the end of May, we had to work until the end of June. So that whole month, I was basically told to shut my mouth and just do my job. And I did. It was fine. You know, I actually felt an enormous weight off my chest because I knew I never had to go back to that anymore. But it was also super scary because I also just knew in my heart that being in a classroom as a teacher was just no longer what I believed it to be. It wasn't what it was when I started college. It wasn't even what it was when I started teaching. It had just changed so dramatically that I couldn't even recognize it anymore. So yeah, I have upwards of $100,000 in student loans, which I will probably die with. And that's okay, you know, because I can't imagine being in a classroom right now. So I took that next school year off, 2015-2016 school year. My kids were in school. My daughter was in third grade and my son had just started pre-K. And I thought, I'm going to just take this year. I'm going to be a mom and I'm going to finally write my fucking book, which is a whole other thing. And throughout that school year, because I wasn't spending all of my time and energy on teaching, I could see my kids and see what they are experiencing. My daughter would come home every day crying. I'm not even exaggerating, literally crying because of the amount of homework that they had, because of how hard everything was, because, you know, she was in third grade, 8 years old, and they barely had any time to play. And it was like this awful chore having to get her to do her homework, because at that point, my husband and I still thought they're going to be in school. This is what kids do. My son in pre-K, I had to leave him at school every day sobbing because he didn't want me to leave, because he had serious separation anxiety. But doing what every other parent does, you're like, no, you're going to be okay. School is wonderful, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go now. I'll be back later. And it broke my fucking heart. It lasted for months and months. And I started thinking, like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way to do this. And I had always thought homeschooling was for crazy people and for fundamentalist Christians. And so it just never occurred to me that that could be a thing. And I stumbled upon an article, I think it was on Facebook, read it, and then I just started researching like crazy. And I brought a stack of articles to my husband and said, I need you to read these. We need to talk about homeschooling the kids. And it was, I want to say it was in February of 2016 that we finally said, okay, this is what we're going to do. My son had taken the test, the GT, gifted and talented test for Olmsted, and taking a kid with separation anxiety, putting him in a room with a stranger. You know, what do you think he did? He started crying and he couldn't possibly take the test. So on his evaluation, it literally said his crying got in the way of his score. And that just enraged me. This is a 4-year-old child, and you're deeming him unsuitable for this program because he cried because you were a stranger. And that was the nail in the coffin. That was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done with my kids being in this situation. We finished out the school year. I will say I didn't make my daughter do all her homework anymore. I didn't make her finish all of her projects. We talked about why. And I actually started pulling my son out for about half days because I just figured, this isn't doing anything for either of them. So fuck it, we're going to do it my way. And then we started homeschooling that school year. So it was 2016, September, that we started. And we just finished actually yesterday, this school year. So now we're on summer break. And we don't do things like, traditional school does. We don't have, an 8 to 2 school day. We don't, we're not necessarily Monday through Fridayers. We do things our own way, but I do give them certain amounts of breaks where it's just like, go be a fucking kid and do your thing.
I'm just like so in awe of you homeschooling your kids and like dedicating, I know that you don't like school all day, but like dedicating a huge portion of your own life and taking that sacrifice away from things that you want to do that for your kids. It's just like, it makes me want to cry because I feel kind of like an asshole because I don't want to do that. And I am hopeful that my kids will succeed in public school because I don't want to do that. But also because like, you have a background as a teacher. So like interacting with kids of all different levels, like you're literally trained to do that. And I am not at all. So,
it was a struggle with Ollie because I taught 7 through 12. I didn't know how the hell to do school with little ones, but it worked. So he's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and just, I obviously like in real life, I know you, I know your kids and they're just wonderful kids. They're brilliant kids. They're open. They love reading and they love sharing their love of reading with other people. And I just like win. Like you couldn't be educating your kids any better than you are. Like they're great. I just love it. So another thing that I want to talk to you about is about your Instagram account, not just about the account, but why you have your Instagram account and how that brought you to your yoga journey.
Yeah. Life is just so damn crazy, right? That you never know what is going to bring something else. And I started my Instagram like anybody, putting pictures of my kids and shit up there. Nothing's, fancy or special. And then I made friends my first year of homeschooling the kids. And one of my friends was like, oh, I do these yoga challenges on Instagram. It's cool. You just take a picture of you doing yoga and post it. I'm like, oh, all right, that sounds kind of fun. So the first challenge at that time, you know, I just went out searching yoga challenges. And the first one that I found was called Strip Down Asanas. And
at this point, you're not a yoga teacher, correct?
No. This is like 2017. So I'd been practicing for, 7 years or whatever, but absolutely no fucking teaching. And my practice had even kind of like slowed down at that point. So it was like a kick in the ass. Like, you need to get yourself back into this practice. And this challenge came up, and it was like posting these yoga photos theoretically in your underwear. You didn't have to, but you could. And I was like simultaneously terrified, but also super intrigued, because being of a not super thin body, I thought this would be awesome, because I can guarantee you there's going to be a ton of thin white women in this feed. And I thought, let's just kind of throw a wrench in that and put my chubby ass in. And that's what I did. And I was amazed. I got so much positive feedback from it. So many people commenting like, I'm so impressed that you're doing this and that you're not scared, and et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, wow, that's really fucking cool. I started feeling better about myself. Other people were appreciating seeing my rolls and dimples. And so I just kept doing it. And so months went on, and I was doing all of these yoga challenges, predominantly in my underwear.
Fancy underwear too. Sometimes you must know the fancy underwear.
I was, well, you know, it's like, if I'm going to be out there, might as well wear something nice. And then you had mentioned, am I able to say names of studios?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay. You had mentioned becoming a volunteer at Yoga Parkside. You're like, it's so cool. You know, you can take classes for free. You just have to do sign in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I started volunteering, and I don't know, I was there probably a couple of months. And then Megan, the owner, just randomly came in, and I had started liking Yoga Parkside's posts and commenting and whatever. And so she started following me, and she's like, I love your stuff. I love your photos. I love your attitude. I love your everything. You need to teach here. And I was like, well, I'm not a teacher. And that did not matter to her, which I fucking love the fact that Megan just doesn't give a shit how things are supposed to be done. She's going to do things the way that she believes they should be done. So props to her. And then I started teaching in September of 2018. I hadn't gotten certified. I just started teaching. I was subbing classes for Megan while she was out of town. And I guess I got enough good feedback that it rolled into me taking over that class for her. And then she wanted to create this body positive class, which started in January of 2019. And I got so many people who loved that class, who just felt really great being there. It was a nice atmosphere where I felt like I could be myself. I didn't have to be this like yoga guru person. I was flaring and being my normal self, and people loved it. And then it just, it took off, and I started teaching more classes. And here I am. I think it's June 2020 at this point.
Yeah, I think so, right? Like,
yeah,
it's the end of April, May right now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where the hell I am right now, but I think that's where we are.
Yeah. So you did
teaching virtually.
Yeah, you did go get certified though, because you wanted to, not because you had to.
I did. I didn't have to, right? Because Megan was like, I don't care if you do or don't. And I knew that I couldn't ever afford the teaching training, because they're usually around $3,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the traditional ones where you go like in person.
I can't afford that, and I don't have the time for that, truthfully. So I went through this studio. They actually have a physical studio in Massachusetts, but then they do online trainings. They're called Aura Wellness, and they were friggin' great. They gave me all this information. They gave me all this sort of support, and I got to do it at my own pace, which was amazing. I got it done in a year, which was great, that I could just take my time. And then the teacher, Paul Gerard, who runs it, he literally read all of my stuff. He watched my videos, and he gave like actual specific feedback. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I feel very strongly about the privilege of yoga teacher training. That's a whole other can of worms, but it is absolutely possible for people to get trained by alternate means and still be a great fucking teacher.
Exactly. I mean, I'm super, super glad that we have stayed in touch all of these years, mainly because of the internet, which is insane because you live like 2 miles from my house. But,
I know.
That's how adult life works. It's like you grow up and you have a family and you have your career and you have this and you have that, and like so many things get in the way. And it's one of the things that started the cornerstone of my business that I started in the first place was to make the connections that we have with people really, really memorable and meaningful in tangible ways in a world that is getting increasingly more and more digital.
True.
And when I first started it out, there were so many people, this is like, 2003, 2004. And I was like, I'm going to start this company. I'm going to make journals and I'm going to make paper and cards and it's going to be great. And people are like, yo, everyone's going to be on LiveJournal. Right? Because that's the world we were in at the time. And everyone's like, oh my God, no one is going to be writing letters. No one's going to write in a journal ever again. Like the Kindle had just come out. Like no one is going to read paper books ever again. That's not the world that we live in. And I was like, you just wait. Like there's something special about tangible things. And so for me, like that's my core, like at the heart of me, it's like that physical energy transfer connection. However, the world that we do live in, there are obviously like plenty of people who still write letters, plenty of people who are like die hard. I'm only going to read this book because it's made out of paper. And there are all sorts of scientific proof that if you write something down physically on a piece of paper, you will remember it in a way that you will not if you type it on a computer. Same thing with reading a paper, an actual physical book. But especially during this pandemic and, the communal solitude, which is what I have been calling it, thanks to my wonderful friend, Maud White, who I'm hoping to have as one of my guests on here at some point. That we were not all alone, but we are alone together. And I just love just that connection. And so that was part of the impetus to want to start this podcast, because before the pandemic, the ways that people were connecting online were not nearly as personal as they are now, because people were still able to connect not online in those ways. And although the world is starting to open up a little bit at a time, I'm pretty sure that like 90% of our population is going to have like some serious trauma PTSD from this. And it's going to be a long time before we're like sitting right up next to each other on couches and having conversations like this. So me as a super extroverted person, this pandemic has been really hard for me to not be out at networking events and, meeting new people all the time and hearing new people's stories and being able to like go and tell those stories to somebody else and be like, oh, I'm so excited about this person, look how cool they are. As an extroverted person, I love being able to share people's stories with other people and to like take that energy from the conversation I had getting to know that person in the first place and to share that energy with somebody else. And they're like, ooh, I got this and this and this from that. I'm going to go tell somebody else about that. And like the butterfly effect that you can have on the world. I mean, like a single interaction, a single conversation has the potential to change somebody's whole entire life, like forever. I mean, I have goosebumps right now, like thinking about that. So like, this whole pandemic has helped me to really pinpoint that it's not just like making things and having this like tangible energy exchange with people with my business, but really at the heart of it, it's that moment, like the power of that moment that you can connect with somebody and change their life forever. And then that change can cause someone else to change somebody else's life. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. So that was my main reason for wanting to start this podcast, is to find a place to like collect all of the stories of these amazing people that I know who are like just regular people out in the world who are like, oh, I'm not special, I'm just doing my thing. But like, you're totally special. Like the things that you are doing are affecting so many people in ways that you don't realize. And I mean, it's funny because I was following you on Instagram, and when you started doing your underwear yoga, I was like, damn girl, like I've always been jealous of the Jen Mergler booty, the Jenny Cooper, like forever. Like I used to steal her pants in high school and they never fit me because she has like the most bootylicious booty and I do not. But just like seeing your pictures and seeing like the progression of you getting better at doing yoga because you were feeling more confident in your own body, and the comments that people were sharing with you and saying like, you helped change my whole opinion of myself because of this picture that you shared of yourself. And there is inherent risk in doing what you were doing, obviously, because there's going to be like stupid haters out there who are like, nah, I don't like your body. And you're like, screw you. Sometimes I don't either, but that's fine. Like,
right.
And I mean, I'm still not even at a place where I would be taking pictures of myself doing yoga in my underwear, but mostly because my underwear is like raggedy as hell because I don't ever find underwear. But I just love like how many people you've changed by doing that, and that the whole reason you did it was to disrupt the system and to say like, this is what so many people are seeing, and I want people to see more than that. And I think that's awesome.
I am a troublemaker at heart, truthfully. I like to stir the pot. But in doing that, like, my kids got to watch me be walking around in my underwear, perfectly okay with my body. Mm-hmm. You know, and I started, I think, at a pivotal time for my oldest. You know, she's going through puberty and all these things are changing. And they were able to see, hey, mom's okay with her body. She loves her body. So my body is awesome too, even if I don't look like that person or that person or that person, which I'm really grateful that I could show them that without having to sit them down and be like, you should love yourself. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, kids really just learn by your modeling, not what you want to tell them.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, you know, by doing this underwear yoga, it's brought up problems in our extended family to the point where we actually no longer have relationships with them because they were so negative about me, about it. Basically saying that I'm putting myself out there, and so I should expect to have people who are making lewd comments to me, and, you know, I should just deal with that kind of stuff. And so my kids were able to also see that you don't need toxic people in your life. And if you believe in something and you know you are doing no harm and you're helping other people, if someone else doesn't like it, that's too fucking bad. You need to do what's in your heart. And it might seem silly. It's like, you know, you lost relationships with family members because you wanted to do yoga in your underwear. And that's, you know, obviously that's on the surface level of it. But I just realized that people are going to be toxic, whether you're related to them or not. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to deal with that in your life.
Exactly. Like, power to you. I mean, and it's funny because there's that type of situation is one of the things that stops so many people from making change in their lives, or from doing the things that they love, or from really feeling free to be who they are, is because of friends and so-called friends or family members who don't approve of that or whatever. And I just think that I just love that you're doing it, and that it's super brave, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So the other part of my little podcasty thing that I'm doing, is I'm going to ask all of my guests the same 5 questions toward the end of the show, so that everyone can get the idea that everybody has a different answer to different questions.
That's fun.
And so the first one is, tell me about an experience that shaped who you are today. Any type of interaction, like one of those, like, because this moment happened, I am now different type of experience.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So this might seem silly and insignificant, but I can't remember if it was when I was in 8th grade or 9th grade, but, 13, 14 years old. As you know, I would have baggy jeans on, I'd have hoodies on, and, dressing to certain people what looked like I was a bummy dude. And my grandmother, who lived with us as I was growing up, I guess kind of forced my parents into making a rule for me that I had to wear a skirt or a dress at least once a week so that I could look like a girl and so that I didn't become a lesbian. And it infuriated me. Not only because who the fuck are you to tell me how I should dress, but more importantly, who the fuck are you to care who or what I am? And I think I might have gotten through 1 week of it. And I had nothing against dresses or skirts, mind you. Okay. I just didn't fucking feel like wearing them all the time. But I fought against that and told my parents, like, this is bullshit. I'm not going to do this. I am who I am. And I already knew at that point I wasn't a lesbian, but who the fuck cares if I was?
And why would clothes ever dictate whether or not you were gay or straight? Like,
Thank you.
Or otherwise, you know.
And that, I really feel like that was a catalyst for me just doing what I do and not caring what people thought. And I'm going to dress the way I want. I'm going to look the way I want. I don't care what you think. And I tell my kids about that too. I'm like, you know, I don't care what you look like as long as you're clean. You know, wear what you want to wear. Be who you want to be. Because nobody should tell you who the fuck you are other than yourself.
Yeah, it's been a serious struggle, you know, after my oldest was just been in pre-K for, you know, well, half a year. That he's already like, oh, those are girl clothes or those are girl colors. And I need to wear these clothes because so-and-so wears those clothes at school. And I'm like, oh God, like already?
Yeah.
Like, and then, you know, I took him to the thrift store and he found this black sweater dress. And he's like, I want to wear this. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I bought it and I put it on him and he's like, you know, doing his little thing in the mirror and like sticking his butt out. And he's like super cute. And then within like a very short period of time of him wearing it, even just around the house, he's like, I don't want to wear this. I can't wear this. It's girl clothes. I can't wear girl clothes. And I'm like, it just like breaks my heart. I'm like, you do you, man. Like if you want to wear it, you wear it. If you feel comfortable wearing it, you wear it. Don't let anybody tell you like
fucking society.
What clothes are for aside from like keeping your body covered and warm.
Exactly.
Like,
that is literally it.
Exactly. Okay. So question number 2, when you feel defeated or overcome, what do you tell yourself to keep going?
Well, that's a hard one because I am known to ruminate and to perpetuate that you're no good cycle. But I've gotten to this point now where I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression for 5 years. Diagnosed, mind you, I've had it a lot longer. And I just remind myself, whatever the hell is going on, you've gotten through worse struggles. You've gone through way worse situations. You've gotten yourself out of harder situations. And, and I give myself the permission to just feel what you're feeling right now, because I spent a lot of my growing up having my feelings invalidated and essentially in a way being forced to just move forward. So feel what you want to feel, get it all out, and then just realize that you've gotten through worse and you're going to get through worse probably as well. I know that's probably simple, but that's all I can do, remind myself of those things.
Exactly. That's awesome. Okay. Number 3, tell me about a way that you overcame a mistake or a failure in your life and what you learned from it. This is like a job interview.
I know. I'm like sweating. Well, without getting into too many specific details, in my early 20s, I did something in a relationship that was not okay. And for years, literally years, I beat myself up over it and held on to this shame and this guilt and self-loathing, really. And then I don't even know if I don't think there was one specific time that made me reevaluate it, but I just kind of like looked around my world and thought, if I hadn't done that one thing, I literally wouldn't be where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love where I am right now. I'm stronger. I'm wiser. I'm kinder. I'm a much better me because I did that thing and I experienced that situation. And part of me wishes it never happened because it was incredibly painful. But at the same time, if it didn't happen, I know for a fact that my life would be absolutely different. And so I just came to realize that I can feel those guilty feelings, and I can reflect back on it and go, God, that hurts. But at the same time, what is bigger than that is the fact that I am happy in my life right now. And that thing I did made this life.
Awesome. All right. And number 5, number 4. I can't even read my own list. Someday I will done enough of these that I will just have the questions memorized, but this is the first day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 4, what one trait or habit is most responsible for keeping you on track?
So does anxiety count as a trait?
Sure.
So I have issues with control. Okay. And I'm not trying to get like super, psychologist or anything, but I grew up in circumstances that didn't give me a lot of control. And
yes, as I know.
as you know. And so I really feel like that created this like super monster inside of me where anything that I can control, I try to. And so I'm a little type A. And so I make lists all the time. I love me a good list, to-do list or goals list or just shit tons of lists. I find it to be really helpful in helping me to organize, because otherwise I get really overwhelmed with what do I need to do and how do I need to do it. And for me, being able to just put it down in a list or writing a sequence of something, it helps me to look at something like that and make it less scary and make it more doable for me. Crossing things off, I feel, I'm accomplished. I did something. Which I know goes back to like perfectionism and anxiety and all that stuff. But you know what? It fucking works for me. So I'm just going to keep rocking my lists and keep rocking my, like even when I'm writing, I will literally map everything out because I have to. That's how I feel safe. And that works for me.
That's awesome. So when you have your lists, do you put stuff on your list that is like obvious stuff you're going to do anyway, like get up, take a shower, brush teeth or whatever? Or do you put things that you're like, I definitely need to do this today type of things on your list?
It really depends. If it's just like, okay, I need to go to Target today and I need to go grocery shopping and I need to drop off library books, then that'll be the kind of list that I do. But if there's like something that's like a big event or, like Christmas Eve, which is like a big thing in my house, I literally will write down, sweep the floor, vacuum the carpet. I guess it really depends on the bigger the project, the more items that go on that list, just to break it down for me and make it not so scary and overwhelming.
Awesome. Okay. Now we're on number 5, I swear. Okay. So number 5. What is the best piece of advice you've gotten? And what's the best piece of advice you'd give to others?
Oh, so hard. Okay, so I don't think this is necessarily advice, but this really helped me. So I had a professor in grad school, and I took a class where she was teaching 2 semesters in a row toward the end of my master's degree. And she's just a fucking phenomenal human being. And we kept in touch after grad school. We're friends on Facebook. We've met for coffee. So one time I met her for coffee to talk about a research project that she was doing that she was going to write an article about. And I was talking to her about teaching because that's what her project was focused on. And she just stopped and looked at me and was like, you know, you're really brave. And I'm like, who are you talking to? You know, I'm just doing what I do. And she's like, no, but really, you're really brave. And I don't think you really understand that. And I didn't. And part of me still doesn't. But I think that this is years ago, and I've held on to that. And I remind myself of that. I remind myself that, hey, somebody thinks that what I'm doing is important and it's brave and it's meaningful and it needs to be done. Because I very often don't think that that is the case. And so I think that my advice for other people would be to just realize that you are important. And that sounds so friggin' cheesy, but I think just so many of us see ourselves as ordinary and we're just living our lives and doing our thing. And it's, you know, nothing to put out there. But I think that we probably have way more qualities that we don't realize can help other people or that other people can relate to. And so just continue believing in who you are, continue being your most authentic self. And hopefully you can do that regardless of what kind of consequences might bring about. But if you're not true to yourself, and if you're not living the life that feels most authentic to you, you're going to be miserable. And people will know that. So be brave. We just watched Coyote Peterson today. I'm sorry if you've ever watched it, but he goes, be brave, stay wild. So there, Coyote Peterson tells you to be brave and stay wild. Don't let anyone tame your spirit, people.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Well, you can add another name to that list of people who think that you're brave and what you're doing is important, because check, that's me.
Thank you, dearest.
Aw. So thank you so much for listening to us here at the Reach the Stars podcast. I am your host, John and Willoughby Lore. And Jen, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs?
Yes. Okay. So you can find me on Instagram, _bookish, BOOKISH _Yogini, YOGINI.
Yes. And you can see all of her amazing book recommendations and some of those fun yoga in your underwear pictures. Among many other things and great resources. And it's just, her stories, go live there. They're great. Awesome. She also has a blog. And if you hunt around,
I totally forgot about that.
you can find that. I'm like, someday I'm going to make you write a book and then we'll talk about it on this podcast.
Yes, I'll try.
So where's your blog?
I don't know the whole address, but I will say that it is in my bio links on my Instagram.
Okay. And what's it called?
Why can't I remember?
Isn't it called like Unabashed Honesty or something like that?
It is.
Yeah.
Holy shit. You know it and I don't. Yes. But it's at WordPress and it's Unabashed Honesty.
It's awesome. She has every year when her kids have birthdays, like her reflections on being a parent. Like I was always reading those before I even had any kids. And I was like, damn, I am never going to be that good of a parent that I can like notice that many things about my kids. And I'm still there. And my kids are like 5 and 2. So I totally read her blog for like inspiration of things I should be paying attention to.
We're all different, you know?
Yes. That's how we make, all of the rainbow, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening to the podcast, for watching the videos of this podcast. And if you like what we're doing, support us on Patreon. And if you have tips for improvements, or if you want to volunteer some editing skills or anything in any way, please contact us. You can find me on Instagram at Papercraft Miracles and at MC Vendetta 5. And you can find the Papercraft Miracles website is www.papercraftmiracles.com. Yay!
Yay!
Awesome. All right. Bye, everybody.
A single interaction has the power to change your life forever. This is a place for the stories of those moments. Stories of pursuing dreams, overcoming tragedy and failure, of coming back to life after so much of what feels like dying, of continuing on with only a vision as a map. This is the place where those moments live on. Come sit by the fire, look up at the stars, and be forever changed too.
Thank you for being with us on the Reach the Stars podcast. Our theme music is generously provided by Byro Craddock. You can find him on bandcamp.com. Thank you to all of our current patrons, guests, and everyone else who helps make this dream a reality. We are so proud to be building this amazing community with all of you. If you love this podcast, please consider sharing with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes, and becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/reachthestars. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the videos of these conversations. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, do something cool and tell us about it.